Thank you for joining us again. In this video, we will continue our conversation about the core ideas and how they can be used to construct explanations. So as you, in the previous video, looked at these core ideas, you probably noticed that the grain size of these core ideas is very different from the science content you may have learned at school or may have taught in the past. And that was deliberate. The core ideas were selected to be foundational ideas that can explain multiple different phenomena. So core ideas have what we call explanatory power. The other thing you may have noticed is that they build on each other. So if you look at core ideas from kindergarten to 12th grade, they transition from ideas about the macroscopic world that we can observe directly. So there may be some ideas related to clouds or to parts of plants or to sound that we can hear. And it moves towards ideas about the microscopic world that we cannot see directly. Maybe we can observe some of it with some tools. And we're talking about ideas about atoms or molecules or waves or cells. So when students use these core ideas, they can construct explanations for phenomena. And as they go from elementary to middle and high school, they can construct increasingly sophisticated explanations. And our goal in this is that when students encounter a phenomena outside of school, maybe after school, when they're older or, that they can use the core ideas that they remember from their schooling, these foundational science ideas. And in this case, there's 3 ideas that I posted on this slide. They can use these ideas together to make sense of the phenomena and to construct an explanation for it.
So one of the really most significant shifts in the NGSS is this idea of core ideas being tools to make sense of the world. So rather than core ideas being something that's sort of the end point of instruction, like at the end of a unit, students have discovered Newton's second law. Instead, we're saying, give these core ideas to students and let the students use these ideas as tools to make sense, to come to an explanation. They don't need to discover them or confirm them. So you may need to spend a little time talking about the core ideas. You can change the language to make it more student friendly if you want to. You may want to have a conversation like, have you seen this before? Like we talked in the last video about sunlight warms the Earth's surface. So you could say to kids, have you ever experienced this, that the sunlight, you can feel the warmth from sunlight. So sometimes just a really quick conversation, but you want to give these tools to students so that they can use these tools to make sense of the world.
Okay, so what does that look like, right? So here's a phenomena. Last night I went outside, there was a puddle of water in my yard, and this morning it turned into ice. So how can we use core ideas to construct an explanation for this? So let's start with 2 core ideas on this slide. The one about sunlight warms the earth, and the other one about light, in this case sunlight that can transfer energy from place to place. Right, so we can use these ideas to do a couple things already. So during the day, we have the sun in the sky. So the sun warms the earth, right? And that sunlight transfers energy from the sun to the air and the water. And that's that 4th grade core idea. And by extension, at night, there's no sunlight. So this transfer of energy stops, and this causes the air temperature to drop. All right, so what is the consequence or the effect of the air temperature dropping? Here's another idea. So energy can move from place to place, and it gets spontaneously transferred from a hotter area to a colder area. So in this case, we can use this core idea to understand that when the air temperature drops, the energy now moves spontaneously from the warmer water to the colder surrounding air. And that causes the water temperature to drop. All right. So what is the effect of the water temperature dropping? Well, here are 2 foundational ideas, the simplest ideas we have to make sense of that. They're from 2nd grade. It talks about the fact that matter exists in many forms. Sometimes it's solid and sometimes it's liquid. And the 2nd idea talks about the fact that heating and cooling can cause matter to go from solid to liquid or vice versa. So what we can do with this idea is we can now understand that when the water temperature drops, water, which is a liquid, may change to ice, which is a solid. And this is how we can use core ideas to construct an explanation.
And think about the difference between this and the explanation of, oh, it got cold and it froze, right? This is a much more detailed understanding of the process, and that's what we want students to be able to do. But I also want to point out to you that these are the ideas we used for this explanation, but these same core ideas can be used to construct an explanation of why ice melts in a glass of water, or why, when you have a coffee cup on your desk, it gets cold over time. So these core ideas really help us. We can use these as tools to explain so many things in the world around us. And that's what we want to give to students, this ability to explain.
Okay, so in our next videos, we will dive more deeply into the two other components of the NGSS, which are the practices and the cross-cutting concepts. And we hope you will join us for those videos.
Bye, everyone.